Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to find a neighbor.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Find a neighbor, tell them your name, and tell them how excited you are about tonight's seminar. Ready to go.
Tracy, I am so far strong excited about this seminar. Unbelievable. Oh, thank you for that. And you are Michelle. Oh.
I need more than that.
Wow. See? Look how fun that was. Aren't you so excited you did that? Okay. How many of you guys, raise your hand if this is your first time to one of my seminars in this office? Hands up high. All right. Clap it up for them. Yes, good. Okay. Raise your hand up if you've been to multiple seminars in this office. Oh, more hands. I love it. Okay. So, those of you guys who, just to make sure I'm talking to the right crowd tonight, if you guys want the polished, rehearsed version of Dr. Mike tonight, or do you guys want the unfiltered, devil-stomping Dr. Mike tonight? Okay, here we go. Just so you know, you asked for this. So, we're going to kick off. Romans 12:2. Romans 12:2 says, do not be conformed by the patterns of this world. Tonight, guys, this is the reason why we put on an immunity seminar is because too many people have gotten stuck conforming to the patterns of the world when it comes to how to treat your immune system, right? And the problem is that it's become so toxic that we become sicker and sicker and sicker as a nation. The second ladder of that is that we don't become conformed, but we become what? Transformed by the renewing of our minds. Tonight is about transforming your mind, becoming renewed in a new thought process in how to approach your health. Are you guys ready for this? This is going to be like the black hole. We're going to dive in deep tonight. You guys ready? Okay, here we go. So, going in deep. We're going to kick off with a quick testimony. Aren't those little boys cute, by the way? So, their dad is here, Mr. Cameron. And come on up, Cam. And, you know, I think that when you look at this, this is a perfect story to kick off the seminar because it's one thing to hear me sit here and talk about how important it is to do healthy things. It's another thing to like hear it from someone real life who's was experiencing a lot of immunity issues. So Cam, tell kind of your kid's story.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to be here. I'm not happy to be speaking, but I guess I'm happy to have a little bit of a story to share. I started doing video work for Mike. I'm sure you guys have seen me walking around setting up, but I started doing video work for Mike a few months back, and I had no intention of doing anything with Mike. I was just here to film videos and get paid and stuff. And I ended up watching so much of him on the other side of this camera, and everything that he said resonated a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. And I ended up going home, and every time I would go and film with Mike, I'd tell my wife, I'm like, babe, this guy is like, he's just speaking like truth. Like, I like this guy so much. And it ended up getting to the point where he invited me and my family in, and we just wanted to see what was going on. I've had immunity issues. I have like this chronic sickness thing that I get sick one or two times a month, and both my boys have asthma, and we've all just kind of struggled when something as simple as a cold and flu runs through. It turns into 2-3 weeks of sickness and coughs. And when we came to see Mike, we had actually been on the tail end of a cough that had been lasting for about 3 months with my boys. And we started getting adjusted, and within a few days, my boys' coughs went away. And just recently, the cold came through, my kids in preschool, and the cough and the what should be a normal sickness ended up being not what it was before. It's not as long, and normally right now we'd still be going through it, but after just a few days, both my boys were out of the sickness. And just kind of a really big blessing to be able to see when you are like what Mike always says, when you're living by some of the principles that he teaches outside of just getting your spinal cord adjusted, we have personally seen a huge benefit in our family. My boys are happier and healthier than they've ever been. So we've just been so happy, and we couldn't be more grateful that we stumbled across Mike.
So good. Thanks, buddy. Last night we had the pleasure of going and adjusting Elevation Worship and got to stay for the concert. And Stephen Furtick preached, and what he said was, if you're here tonight, there's no accident. If someone bought you a ticket, there's no accident. that if you're here tonight, that God's going to do big things through you. And I want you guys to know that the fact that you're sitting here tonight, you gave up your Tuesday night, the fact that you're here, I can promise you that God's going to do big things through you through tonight because of your, like, what you've put into this. Does that make sense? Like, when you put effort into your health, like, you're going to be rewarded. So just know that out of tonight, you're going to be rewarded when you leave this room tonight. And one of the things that I have to start off with is the current state of our health, because it's terrible. Can you guys agree? Now, this is, when you look at where we've gotten to and how we've gotten here, this is, remember you guys asked for the uncut version, but when you look at how do we end up to this point, and you go back to how does it start? And I think when you look at where it starts is that from the moment we're born, the doctors make us believe that we're broken, make you believe that you have to be monitored 24/7 under their supervision, that you have to vaccinate your kids right away, that you have to give them medicine right away, that it's weird if you don't go to the doctors, that you go at home and then you watch commercials, and then Big Pharma is putting on, it's either a medication or it's some kind of a bad food, and they're full of seed oils and processed things, and your kids get inundated in that. And then as you grow up and you go through life, there's these constant parades to make you feel like you have to be part of this sick culture. You guys know what I'm talking about? And this is what we live in right now. And it becomes this place where we become so fearful. So now all of a sudden, couple Christmases ago, this is the sad part, is that we spent our Christmases like this. And this is, it's a joking picture, but it's a serious picture, because there are actual people who spent Christmas like this. And there are actual people that were told to spend Thanksgiving locking their family members out of the house in the garage, and that if they had to come in, pick up food and leave, and they did that. And I think that the reason why people make decisions, the reason why we fall into the trap of that, 100% comes down to the paradigm that you believe in. When all that happened, there were people that said, screw off, I'm not doing that. And we went one way, and there are people that did this and they lived a certain way. And it comes down to the paradigm that you believe. And tonight is about opening up your paradigm to help you understand that there is a different way, that God did not call us for this. I guarantee you that. So when you start to look, this isn't now a joke, but if you spent Christmas at my wife's family, her family's a little bit different. It looks something like this. They're very elegant and beautiful, and they're very like all athletic, and it's wonderful to watch. Then you come to my redneck family, and it looks more like this. This is the difference. This is how we were during the same time frame. Now, as we dive in, here's what I want you guys to think about. Truth over fear. When it comes to this paradigm, if you step in, it goes truth over fear. 2 Timothy says we were not given a spirit of what? Fear. In this season, the time and the reason why you would react is because out of fear. You react out of fear. You respond out of being proactive. Okay? There's two different pieces there. So when we start to look at this, number one, we have to understand that your body has innate intelligence. Here's the thing. The moment you were born, God gave you an immune system that supports your body and that reacts and responds to things. The moment you were born, that was given to you, and you don't have to do anything else. Like hundreds of years ago, when we didn't have doctors monitoring us 24/7, we survived. Right? Like hundreds of years ago, when we weren't allowed to have babies in hospitals, we survived. So the question is, why do we all of a sudden feel like if you don't go to the doctor, then you're not going to survive? This has been so put in our brain that we have to be that way. Number two, that your body has the power to protect yourself from illness, and that your body has a powerful defense system. This is what you're going to learn tonight is going to teach you to turn that system on and learn how to maximize it and optimize that system, or it's going to not. And there's going to be some topics tonight we're going to go into that I'm going to tell you now, you're either going to walk out of here and love me and say, this guy's awesome, or you're going to hate me and never want to come back. One of the two. But we're going to go all in, because I think at the end of the day, truth has to be said. Okay? You guys open for that? Okay, here we go. How does this immune system work? So this is, I think, found from a foundational standpoint, if you just understand how does this thing work. So if a pathogen or a bacteria or a virus or something comes in contact with your body, there's certain things that God already gave you, the way your body was built, to protect yourself. You have tonsils, and you have lymph nodes and adenoids, and you have certain things in your body that are designed to protect yourself. Here's where we start off. How many of you guys, when you were kids, your tonsils got swollen, went to the doctors, and they ripped them out? Okay, here's the thought process. It's so common for doctors to say, oh my gosh, your kid's tonsils are swelling? Take them out. So easy. Here's my question. Do you think God gave you extra parts? Were you built with like extra parts that you don't need? No, there's a purpose for your tonsils. They're the first line of defense to your body. So if you take your tonsils out, you've just taken away your children's first line of defense when it comes to their immune system. That is a big piece. So here's the thing. My question, when you come to my office and your kid's getting constant swollen tonsils, my question would be, why do you think that's happening? What could be happening to make their tonsils chronically be getting swollen? Let's start there. Does that not make way more sense? How can we keep your tonsils and keep everything else? Like, let's start there. So now, immune system, pathogen comes in, body has a system that all of a sudden activates. You have white blood cells and you have T cells, you have all these things that will start to activate. I think of it like a battle zone's going off in my body, right? So bad guys are coming in, all my warriors, all my army, they're coming up and they're like, you have your first line of defense that's fighting off bad guys, and then you have guys that are coming up like taking pictures, and that's your memory cells saying, hey, boom, I got your picture, so if you ever come back, bro, I'm going to know who you are, and we're going to fight you off even harder. And your body has this memory system, but it only does that if it innately comes in contact with the bacteria or the virus or the pathogen. Okay? If you just come in the front door and take a screenshot, now we have a memory of it. What happens when we bypass that, and we're going to get into vaccines in a little bit later, but what happens when you artificially put something in your body, that's like somebody coming in the back door and me never getting a screenshot of it and me never having a memory to be able to fight it off in the future. Does that make sense there, that analogy? So this is where we have to understand that we want our kids to come in contact with stuff. We want to come in contact with stuff to create and build an immune system. Like, this is the foundational piece. So this is how most of our kids grow up, unfortunately, today. This is how we usually grew up. Yeah. Most of us in our culture, we grew up drinking out of a hose, licking the dog's mouth, because that's just what we did. We were outside playing in the dirt. And the reason I bring this up is there was a study they did, and they measured and they looked at immune system function of city kids versus country kids. Before I even talk, how many of you guys know the answer to this? Who had a better immune system?
Country kid.
Why do you guys think that is? Exposed to all of the stuff, right? So here's the thing. Today's culture, we've been taught that we need to stay inside, be away from germs. Heaven forbid we break a sweat. We come in contact with anything dirty, and we need to sanitize everything, wash our hands 10 times a day, and we never come in contact with bad germs. So guess what? If you've never come in contact with anything bad, you never have the opportunity to build your immune system up. The way we grew up, my dad would kick me out of the house when the sun came up and said, come back when the lights come back on. And I would be playing basketball and wrestling with my kids and playing football in the dirt, and just like, you're just exposed to so much stuff. And I wish I had I was joking with Dr. Matt, I wish I had a picture of when I played football. I think this is where my immune system came from. We had this thing called the cow, and it was a shopping cart from Target, and they had little water lines that went to the sides, and they just poked holes in it, and then we like screwed it into the ground. There's like a water hose in the ground. They screwed a hose in, so at football practice, when we needed water, they turned it on, and then it would just shoot water out. So we, sweaty and hot, would come and like lick the shopping cart and try to drink water out of it, and like all these guys are doing this back to back. You're like, this is how I have an immune system. Now, I'm not telling you guys to go home and start drinking out of the hose, but like when my son was growing up, most of his upbringing was outside naked in the dirt, and it was getting him exposed to all kinds of stuff. And I think that's a big piece of why he rarely ever gets sick and almost has never been sick. And it's a big piece of why, because he's just been exposed to everything and anything that we can, right? So how we grew up is a big piece of this. Now, germ theory. This right here is the paradigm foundation. This, if you believe the germ theory or if you do not believe the germ theory, that right there dictates what happens, okay? So the germ theory, this was a guy named Louis Pasteur back in 1860 came up with this idea of the germ theory. What the germ theory says is that if there is a germ, right, floating around, let's say a virus here, if you come in contact with the germ, then you get sick. The germ makes you sick. If you are the person who looks at your sister and says, oh my God, you gave me that cold, you believe in the germ theory, okay? If you sit here and say that somebody else gave it to you, that's a germ theory concept. Here's the thing. Why is it that you can send your kid to school, one kid, let's say, has a snotty nose, right? He's got the germ. He goes in a school room full of 30 other kids. If the germ theory was accurate, every one of those 30 kids was exposed to that exact germ. If it was an accurate theory, then every one of those children should come down with that cold and be sick. But is that the case? No. So that germ theory, if you actually dive deep enough, on Louis Pasteur's deathbed, he redacted his comment and said, I was wrong. And because the germ is a piece of the puzzle. When COVID broke out, it was a piece of the puzzle. Everybody was so focused on the virus. We're so focused on the germ, on the bug. And here's the problem. Can you control the bug? No. What should we put our focus on? The things that you can control. What can you control? The host. All through when this thing broke out in 2020, everything, if you've been with me that long, you know that I've been preaching about you focus on the host. The host, the host, the host. So now this goes into the concept of the terrain theory, okay? This is different. The terrain theory says that I don't worry about the germ, I focus on the host. I focus on the terrain of my body. Am I building my body up to the best of my ability? And this is what's interesting. Do you guys remember a couple years back out in Lake Michigan, there's that big toxic spill? Remember that? There's a big toxic spill and toxins got all over the water, and what was happening is that all these fish were getting super sick. So everything in the water either got really sick and died, or it had these really weird genetic mutations. Either way, there was just, like death and destruction all over the waters, okay? Here's the difference in mindset, okay? What the germ theory says is, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of sick fish in the water. We should pull the fish out and we should give the fish little fish vaccines and give them little fish antibiotics, and we should give the fish like medicine and then put them back in that same water, and then they should be okay. That's what the germ theory says, if you believe in there. What the terrain theory says is the fish are sick because they are in toxic water. We need to clean up the environment of the water, and then the fish will stop getting sick. Doesn't matter what you give that fish, if you put the fish in the same environment the fish got sick in, it's going to keep getting sick. Does that make more sense? Here's the thing. During the season that we're going to walk into, holiday season, cold and flu season, whatever you want to call it, in the season, here is the thing. The concept is that you have control over what only you can have control over. Okay? You have control over your body and what the host in which you control this. So my thing is, if I can control my environment to the best of my ability, then that is the one thing that can bring me peace and solidarity, because I can actively do that. But if I'm so focused on the germ over here, oh my gosh. And the question comes down is like, when COVID happened, I'll openly tell you guys that I adjusted hundreds and hundreds of people who actively had it, and I never put a mask on one time. And the question is that how could I do that? And during that entire time, I've never gotten it. How is that possible? I never was scared of the germ, but I was so focused on my hope. This is why when you get sick, what do we tell you guys? Come in the office and get adjusted, right? Come in the office and get adjusted, because I'm not afraid of the germ. I take care of my body and I'm confident in my system because my host is doing well. So come in, let's get you adjusted and help your body heal better. This is where this concept, how empowering is that concept versus the germ theory? Isn't that way more empowering to know that, like, hey, guess what? I trust this body that God gave me, and I trust that the immune system is strong because I do the right things. And if you can be there and you can live there, I tell you, every sick season that comes along will forever change, because you're like, I don't ever pay attention to flu season. That doesn't exist to me. It's just another season of holidays, because I know that my body is prepared for it. You guys good? Tonight we're going to talk about how and what do you do to prepare the body now. What do you do to prepare the host? That's a whole other big piece of the common. First thing is gut and immune system. How many of you guys knew that there's a connection between gut and immune system? Okay, so gut and immune system. 70% of your immune system is residing in your gut. Here's the problem. When you look at this, the better you take care of your gut, the better your immune system has an opportunity to work. The worse your gut is, you're already damaging your immune system. What happens in the next couple months? We go through parties and we eat lots of what? We're gonna go all into that tonight too. And here's the thing is, we damage our immune system here. Now we get sick. Let's say we do get sick, okay? Go to the doctor and they give you what? Yes. So this isn't an antibiotic, but I don't know about you guys. Do you guys ever grew up taking that little blue Dimetap, a purple Dimetap stuff, right? Anybody else? I grew up, my dad would give me the bottle, we lost the cup, and I would just drink it before bed. And like, I grew up on purple grape Dimetap and NyQuil. That was my upbringing. And my dad, we were always in this medicated mindset of thinking, hey, don't worry, son. Worst case scenario, you just guzzle some NyQuil, you wake up, and it's all gone. And it was I'm just guzzling that my whole upbringing. And all the while, when you take medications like that, it has an effect on your gut. When you take antibiotics, you wipe out your gut. Everything you do has an effect on your gut. So if we're not doing proactive stuff to help our gut be at its optimal potential, then what we're doing is we're basically already stripping away a lot of layers, not allowing our immune system a chance to flourish. Does that make sense there? So in this season, I'm not saying avoid all sugar and avoid all candy and avoid all stuff because I hate you. I'm saying it's going to destroy your gut. If it destroys your gut, it's going to hinder and ruin your immune system. It's a black and white connection right here. So like, make proper choices for your gut so your immune system has an opportunity to function well, okay? Cancer. This one hits home for me. So I don't share this story a lot. A lot of you guys, if you're a patient of mine, you know about my dad. Not a lot of you guys know about my mom. When I was in high school, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And she went the medical route, and she had radiation, and she had chemo, and she did all the things. And the doctors never talked to her about her environment. They just talked to her about the cancer. Same germ theory mindset. They just said, here's the cancer. We're going to burn it out. We're going to cut it out. We're going to put all this stuff in your body, and you'll be okay. So she did that. And it was one of the worst experiences having to watch my mom do that. She never changed her environment. So what do you think came back 2 years later? The way I look at cancer, the way you have to understand cancer is that all of us have cancer cells in our body. You have to know that all of us, everyone has cancer cells in your body. The moment that you've suppressed your immune system long enough is when you give cancer an opportunity to multiply and come active. Okay? So when you start to understand how this works, if you're not taking care of our environment, then like this is the analogy we once gave, is like if I have a pile of garbage and I have a bunch of rats coming to the garbage, well, what makes more sense? Getting rid of the garbage that the rats are there for, or just exterminating rats and spraying poison all over the rats every time they show up? But here's what we do is we never get rid of the garbage. All we do is poison our body with a bunch of stuff and try to do that. Do you guys see how backwards that is? Yeah. So the concept should be, what is the root cause of the problem always, and how do I remove that away? How do I clean up my environment? And then we overcome. My mom, after round 2 of getting cancer, finally listened to what I was telling her. I said, Mom, you have to change your lifestyle. You got cancer again because you still eat horrible, and you still smoke cigarettes, and you still do that. You still don't exercise. You still. And she's like, round 2 of getting cancer, she listened to everything I said. She started going to church again. She started eating well again. She started exercising and going on walks. And we're now 7 years later, and cancer is still gone. And you can see the difference. So, and plus, it's way more empowering to know that she is actively doing things to keep that thing gone versus poisoning herself and thinking, I hope it doesn't come back. There is power in that. And there's power in everything in this system about when you look at your immune system. There's power in this, and you can be in control, but you have to make certain decisions for that. Amen? Okay. So, strengthening the host. Here we go, 5 essentials. This is something that I will forever talk on. This is the 5 basic things that you need to do to start to strengthen the system. So, chiropractic care, we're going to talk about at the end. Chiropractic care, like you heard Cameron's story with his little boys. I mean, we weren't changing their diet. We were getting them adjusted. And their adjustments and correcting their spine is what allowed their immune system to flourish to the way it was. So we're going to talk about that. You look at nutrition. We're going to talk about that in a second, what you put in your body. We're going to talk about your mindset. Dr. Matt's going to teach you about mindset, how you exercise, and removing toxic things out of your life. And that can go in so many different ways than you might think. But this is a concept of our life, is that there are 5 essential things that if you can just pay attention and do these 5 things for the rest of your life, this is how you eventually create abundant health in your life, is by actively doing pieces of those 5 things. Sound good? Yeah. Okay, we're starting off. with this.
Alrighty, so for the guests here, I'm Dr. Matt. I know most of you in the audience, but the goal of this is to talk about the 5 essentials that support your body in growing ultimate health. I have a story before we ultimately get into it. It's kind of like Dr. Mike's story. It's my why and the reason why I do this, the reason why I'm comfortable now to get up and speak in front of people. It's my dad. So similar to Dr. Mike, my dad was also, when I was growing up, he was like my idol, but we lived a very unhealthy lifestyle, even though I was constantly doing athletics, going to wrestling practice, going to baseball practice, whatever it was, kept me in good shape, but I wasn't ultimately putting the best things in my body, and neither was my dad. So he was a bar owner. When he owned the bar, he was around smoking, around alcohol, drinking, not eating right, had a lot of stress in his life. So when I got to college, he would come to my matches, he would get stressed out, his heart would start to hurt. We thought it was from the stress, just because there were a lot of people there, big matches, but come to find out, he starts walking up a hill to get to the match, and his heart starts to hurt really bad. We get him to the hospital. He has 100% blockage in his heart. So, lucky to be alive, for one, but like we talk about, I mean, we're very big on strengthening the immune system, doing things the non-medical way, but in the United States, we have the best emergency care in the world. And that's what they did. They went in, they put a stent in, opened up his heart. We thought he was okay. Even me, like in the health background that I have, I thought he was okay. But he didn't change his lifestyle, and that's what we're going to talk about now, is strengthening the host. So another 3 months later, he has to go back to the hospital. He has a 95% blockage in another artery. This time they go in to put the stent in. They hit a valve on the way out. My dad, for that point, was dead on the table. 9 seconds, not alive, heart wasn't beating. Still chokes me up. But again, we have the best emergency care in the world. I mean, they brought the shockers out, shocked him, brought him back to life. And then it was at that point that I knew that we had to sit down and have a real conversation, like we're gonna have tonight, about changing his environment, changing the host, so that way he can create ultimate and abundant health. At that point he had heart failure. So we go, we talk, we have a serious talk. I'm scared of my dad, and he's my idol, I'm scared of him, but we talked about it, we changed the environment, he stopped drinking alcohol, he started eating right, he started getting adjusted, he started walking every single day, and literally it's about 2.5 months now, he called me the other day and he reversed his heart failure. It's the amazing things that can happen, right? Well, you don't have to clap, but it's amazing. My dad reversed his heart failure. It's like things that you don't hear about, but it's through chiropractic. We'll get to that later, but ultimately there's things that change in his life, doing the right things, living right, eliminating toxins in his body that ultimately changed his life around. So what I want to say is that you're capable, you're the host, you're capable of changing things. I don't care at what point you are in your life, you are capable. Your body is capable, your immune system is capable, no matter what anybody else tells you. So what I want you guys to do is we're going to stand up. Come on, everybody. Everybody. So, what I want you to say is I am, I can, and I will. I am, I can, and I will. So, the first part we're going to start out doing is we're talking about exercise. Yeah, we're going to get moving a little bit. You guys are sitting around. So, for 30 seconds, all I'm going to have you guys do is we're going to look up into the air and we're going to punch our arms as fast as we can for 30 seconds, okay? So, ready, set, go. We're punching. Come on, Greg, I see you over there. Keep punching. Keep punching. Come on. 20 more seconds. Come on. 10 more seconds. Woo! And time. All right, everybody sit down for me. So, first thing we're going to talk about is exercise. Is your guys' heart beating a little bit, lungs breathing? Just from doing that for 30 seconds. Think about it though. Not only are our hearts beating, our lungs are breathing, everybody was smiling, right? Everybody smiles when you start to do some exercise, your physiological state changes. So what we're going to talk about is getting off our butts. At the end of the day, I'm going to go into a couple studies, but at the end of the day, we got to get off our butts and move. So there's one study that talks about 45 minutes or less of exercise. What their exercise was stretching and walking. During that study, it was done with women. So 45 minutes or less of stretching and walking, that's almost nothing. They had a 3-fold increase or decrease in likeliness of getting an illness just from stretching or walking. That's what we got to do. Just got to start moving, and then as we go, we can start to increase, because ultimately the goal is to feel that feeling that we just felt in our heart, feel that feeling we felt in our lungs. Once you start getting your heart rate up like that, at that pace, then all of a sudden we can start decreasing the time. So we're doing a 30-day challenge right now, where every workout, or every day we're doing a workout, it's about 4 to 5 minutes, all the way to 15 minutes. But we're exhausted by the end of it. So the goal is to get your heart rate up, because I'm going to give you guys a little bit of science. Some of you might not know, some of you will. But it causes enhanced circulation of immunoglobulins, anti-inflammatory cytokines, neutrophils, natural killer cells. Sounds like you want those on your side. T lymphocytes and immature B cells. So that's the sciencey part of it, but we're increasing our blood circulation, which is ultimately improving and boosting our immune system. Okay? So, next part. How many of you guys put candles in your house? Come on, everybody likes the smell. I don't care who you are. Come on. Come on.
Some pumpkin spice vanilla latte candle. I know.
Yeah.
That's right.
We all... exactly, that's what we're going to get into. I don't know who said it, essential oils. Of course. Hey, quiet back there. We're going to get into it. So, the candles, I mean, everyone has them. There are healthy candles out there. There are healthy options. But a lot of them have paraffin wax in them. Paraffin wax is obviously not good. It's made out of petroleum. And where does petroleum come from? I'm sorry? Gasoline. Think about that. And we're burning that in our house all day. It smells great. Don't get me wrong. It smells great. I love it. But when we're doing that, we're also breathing those toxins into our body, which is also hindering our immune system. So, for alternative options, has anybody ever turn the stove on, put a little water in there, and burn some orange peels? So that's a healthy way of doing it. You can also do it with cinnamon sticks. Turn the pot on, burn them in there, and it smells the house of cinnamon, which is also a little nice. And then, somebody also said it, essential oils. Faith, thank you. Essential oils, I mean, it's the easiest thing. Just get yourself a diffuser. Put some essential oils in there. It's a little drop. They're not as cheap, but they last a long time. So, ultimate goal is to eliminate toxins. We're going to get into this here. Microplastics. Sickening. This one gets me going. They just came out with a study. For the first time ever it was recorded, a mom was breastfeeding their child, and the microplastics transferred from the breastfeeding into the baby. For the first time ever. So, the reason why that's bad. We're going to talk about BPAs. Who's heard of them? It's like bisphenol A. I'm pretty sure that's what it stands for. Regardless, it's BPA because it's easier to say. But BPAs are hormone mimickers. So it can mimic your hormones. It's one very bad thing, but it also suppresses your immune system ultimately. So, things we can do to limit our exposures to BPAs. Anybody have Pyrex bowls? Did anybody grow up on the plastic baggies? I had my bag packed for lunch in a plastic baggie every single day, and then just thinking about it sitting in the heat makes me sick about all the microplastics that would have transferred into my body. I know a lot of you probably did the same thing.
It's a good thing you're not breastfeeding.
Right. That's later in life. That won't happen. Next thing, plastic bottles. How many of us have a plastic bottle right now?
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, hold them up. Get rid of them. Those things are bad, especially in Phoenix, honestly, because Phoenix, we're in the sun. When the plastic bottles start to heat up, that's when the BPAs leak into our water. That's how we ingest them. Get yourself a nice bottle. Hold yours up for me, Dr. Mike. It is a one-time investment. I know a lot of our team has them because, yes, we all have one because we don't want those leaking into our system, because ultimately that's what's going to suppress your immune system, and we want to eliminate, in such a toxic world, we want to eliminate as many toxins as possible. Cool. This one, antibacterial soap. Another toxic one. I know Dr. Mike talked about the tonsils being part of your first line of defense. Anybody know that we have good and bad bacteria on our hands and on our skin that literally fights a territorial war as our first line of defense? But this antibacterial soap, oh, you can jump back up. No, just stop hiding, come on. So, antibacterial soap is going to remove all bacteria. It's kind of like what they do with the chemo, where they go in and they kill all cells. Same thing with antibacterial soap. You put it on your hands, you wash it, guess what? All the bacteria is gone. That's our first line of defense as well. If a bacteria or a foreign pathogen comes in contact with our body, our good bacteria are in there fighting for us. So we want those on our hands. We want to be playing in the dirt. And Dr. Mike hit on it earlier, the city kid versus the farm kid. We want that dirt on our body. We want to come in contact with it. If it does get into our body, that's when we get those memory pictures. That was a great analogy for it. But antibacterial soap, get rid of it. Not the best idea, but there are healthy options for you. Has anybody heard of the 7th generation stuff? The soaps? So we can use that. It's not going to kill all the bacteria. Just make sure we're not getting the antibacterial soap. So, Dr. Mike, I don't know if you hit on this first.
My turn. This is it. We're getting spicy. Okay, how many of you guys, when you were kids, were taken to a chickenpox party? How many of you guys took your kids to chickenpox parties? How many of you guys know what I'm talking about? Yes. Okay, so here we go. Back in the day, I'm real old. Back in the day, there was these. The concept was when your friends had the chickenpox, your parents would take you to their house to actively get the chickenpox. And we did that. No, we did that because we knew that if you caught it naturally young, then you would build lifelong immunity. Right? If you caught it young, you would build lifelong immunity, and you're like, cool, we got it over with. We suffered for like a couple weeks, and then we're good forever. And it was like, I remember, it was funny, actually a couple months ago, I thought one of the kids in our neighborhood, I thought that we heard that he might have had a chicken pox through the grapevine, and I was like, get his number, we're gonna go over there. And I was like, Grayson, go kiss him. Like, figure it out. We're gonna get this. No, but like this concept is that you would catch it naturally. So when you catch things naturally as kids, then this is how you build lifelong immunity. We get the memory cells, and we can build long immunity for this. Why is it that if you take your kid to get a chickenpox vaccine, they have to follow with booster after booster after booster with any vaccine, booster after booster? Why do you think that there's 75 rounds of vaccines and 93 antigens that your kid gets from 0 to 18 years old? It's because you don't build lifelong immunity. Is that you have to continue to reintroduce it because they're getting brought in the back door when you do the shots. And one of the best things you can do for your immune system is to breastfeed your kid. So one of the number one best things you can do is to breastfeed your kid. There's so many nutrients in the colostrum of the milk that your baby gets. And this is such a cool study. They did this. It wasn't a study. It's actually like something a mom just posted one time. But did you know that if you get sick and you're a breastfeeding mother, did you know that all of a sudden your body will create certain antigens to stop the virus from getting out of your breast milk into the baby? Here's the other cool part. If your baby is sick and you are not sick as the mother, that when the baby nurses, the saliva on the nipple starts to create this communication, and the milk will change. Your body will produce different proteins and antigens to help that baby become healthier. And the way they showed this is they had a mom who was pumping her milk, right? And it was a certain color. And then her baby was sick, and then she was nursing her baby, and then when she went to pump it, it was a darker yellow color. She's like, what the heck happened? And this is how we started to figure this out. Is like your body is that intelligent. How amazing is that? Your body is that intelligent that it can do that. So this is the idea is, if you ever want to sit down and go into a deeper conversation on this, I am more than happy to sit down and go into this. But here's the concept. Number one is that with all of the number of vaccines your kids get, there has to be a red flag somewhere to think that why in the world that when we were growing up, we had like 8, and that now they're having 75. Where's the gap there? There's got to be something that doesn't make sense. And then I'll end this piece on one more thing, is that the red flag when my wife and I were kind of going through this, one of the biggest red flags is that when it's considered an actual vaccine in the schedule, did you know that manufacturers have zero liability if anything ever goes wrong with your child? You are not allowed to sue them. You're not allowed to go any repercussion at all. So if they have a seizure or something happens, sorry, it's not the vaccine's fault. And here's the bad part, is like that should be a massive red flag that if you have zero liability, why are you, like, what are you injecting in my kid? So go to the next slide. This is where we go into this one. So I'm going to let Dr. Matt kind of go into, there's a couple of reasons why you don't do a vaccine, we'll say flu shot specifically. 2 pieces. Number one is what it does to your immune system. And number 2 is the ingredients you're putting in your body. Okay? I mean, there's a lot of other things we could talk about, but if I had to narrow it down to 2 big pieces, what are the ingredients in that vial you're putting into your bloodstream, and how is that impacting your immune system? So the immune system part, we talk about that you're not building a lifelong immunity. It's like a temporary piece. And then what's really interesting is when you think about the ingredients. So I wrote an article 2 years ago, and I listed out the different, like the top ingredients that are in a flu shot, and then I put what those things are. So go ahead.
So I'm literally going to read directly from his article because it's that amazing. So if you guys want to take notes, this is the time to take notes, because these are the reasons why we don't put these kind of things in our body, and we strengthen the host instead. But so some of the ingredients: ethylene glycol uses antifreeze. Its toxic byproducts first affect the nervous system, and then the heart, and finally the kidneys. So ingestion of sufficient amount can be fatal. They're putting that in your body. Phenol, also known as carbolic acid, is used as disinfectant and dye. Phenol was originally used as an antiseptic in surgery, but they stopped using it because it causes skin irritation. That's in your flu vaccine. Formaldehyde. Anybody know what formaldehyde is used for? It's for embalming, right? So they use it in the vaccines because it's a preservative. That's what I was going to say next. Stop it.
She can read your paper.
Yeah. Did you look? So it does cause cancer. It's a cancer-causing agent. It's in the vaccines as a preservative. Aluminum. So aluminum is a toxic metal. This is one of the more debated ones. So, but it's a toxic metal, and it's an additive in there because we're putting dead or attenuated virus into your body. So when it's dead, you need something that's going to spark your immune system, because the body needs a reaction. It's already dead. The body's not going to come in, fight it, create those memory cells like we talked about to be able to fight it off. So they need to spark the immune system. They put a toxin in there, aluminum, to be able to spark your immune system. It's crazy, right? Okay, and then also aluminum is also associated with Alzheimer's disease. If anybody's been affected by that, my grandma has it. It is brutal to watch your family go through it. And I will make sure that I will do everything to make sure that no one else in my family has to go through that, and watch my mom suffer because of my grandma going through it. So that enough is a reason why that we got to strengthen our host and make sure we're strengthening our bodies and ourselves to make sure we're not putting this toxic waste in our body. So the question is, I like this. He said, would you let your child drink antifreeze, phenol, formaldehyde, and aluminum? No. That's why we're going through what we're going through today. It's a tough conversation, and these things are constantly pushed on us. Constantly. You go I saw one, there was a advertisement for it at, I think it was like a Walgreens, and they had, if you go and get the vaccine, you get gas card money so you can go get gas. So they're literally enticing you to go get the vaccine, put this stuff in your body because they make money from it, and then they're going to give you free gas because of it. So if you have to entice somebody to go do something that's supposed to be for their health with gasoline cards because gas is really expensive, then it's not the right thing for you because of these things that are in it. Cool?
Well, when it costs money to get the vaccine, no one got it. Then they made it free, and nobody got it. So then they're trying to pay you to get it, and people are still like, no. And what's funny is if you go back, the old way they promoted the flu shot was that, if you guys remember, they would say that, hey, it's a 50-50 shot. We're going to guess the strand. We're going to look at Australia and other countries, and we're going to see what's going around, and then we're going to try to put in a concoction together, and we're going to guess the strand. You guys heard that before? Okay. So thanks to how they marketed COVID, when the COVID vaccine came out, they realized that it doesn't prevent you from getting COVID. But the way they marketed it was, if you get the COVID vaccine, what it does is it helps to lessen the symptoms when you actually get COVID. And that's how they marketed it. Guess what they're doing with the flu shot this year? It's not going to prevent you from getting the flu, but it'll lessen your symptoms when you get the flu. They're taking the same approach, and they're just, because now people were like, 50-50 shot, that's silly. I don't want to put all that in my body if it's probably like not even a good chance that's going to help me. And then most times when you get the flu, what happens? When you get the flu shot, you end up getting the flu. Yeah. You get sick every single time. And then I have a patient who, do you mind if I share? She got, well, I don't want to misspeak. It was the COVID shot, right? And for work, COVID shot comes in, and then for weeks, almost months, her arm has been not usable. Oh, wow. And we started going back to there's been a toxicity issue, and now all of a sudden her arm doesn't work. And we've been working so hard. And you start to look at, that's not the first time I've heard that story. There's lots of times you see something like that. And just so I can speak correctly, I went on the CDC's website and I looked up the 2022-2023 flu shot agenda. Flu shot agenda between the beginning of flu season, which they consider September. So in like the last month, 2 months, there's been, in the US, there's been 116 million doses given already. And the CDC, if you look at the recommended flu shot, you should start vaccinating your kid at 6 months old. That's the recommended dose. Here's the problem. You go into your pediatrician, and your pediatrician asks, and I'm going to get to this next topic in a second, but they just say, hey, do you want what's recommended? And we say yes. So then you kind of don't even know which ones are going in there. So just so you know, the flu shot starts at 6 months old and goes on from there. And it's one of those things where, like, I was watching a vaccine documentary one time, and this lady who was a doctor who gave vaccines, and the guy asked, he said, hey, out of all the vaccines, which one would you say is like the one that you would be okay with not doing because maybe this isn't the best one? And all across the board, they said, well, the flu shot's probably like the least effective and doesn't really work, so we would take that one out. But yet we are so coursed into getting the flu shot thinking that that's going to save us. And it goes back in the same thing. You cannot vaccinate your way out of a bad lifestyle. That's a writer downer. You cannot vaccinate your way out of a bad lifestyle. If the goal is the host, then your focus should be the host, not what chemical can I put in my body so that I can continue living horrible throughout the holidays. Do you guys does that make sense? So now go to this one. So how many of you guys know this is what's happening right now? So as of last Thursday, this got put into, this by the way was not in my presentation, but because this happened on Thursday, if you guys know me well enough, I'm the guy that's going to speak up about everything because you need to know. And last Thursday, this was a 15-0 unanimous decision to put the COVID vaccine in the normal vaccine schedule for children. So it's not in the actual CDC guidelines yet, but there was a unanimous decision, like it's on its way. Now here's what happens. Because it was a unanimous decision, what that means is at the age of 6 months, it's a recommended vaccine. So here's what happens. You have a 6-month-old baby. I take my 6-month-old baby to the doctor, and at 6 months old, she says, hey, Mike, would you like the recommended vaccines for your child? And I say, sure. Now I need to be aware that that includes the COVID shot. When I heard that on Thursday, I don't know about you, but I felt nauseous. I pulled up some stats because this is what really upsets me when I think about this stuff is when you look at this, just males alone. This study looked at just males, and it said that from 0 to 18 years old, males who received the COVID vaccine, 50% of them had myocarditis, inflammation of the heart. Think about people that you know who have had issues or complications from the COVID vaccine. It's most times a heart issue. And this is something that where the spike protein is going in and it's happening, these effects on the heart. So now what happened is I got an article sent to me by a good friend of mine. And how many of you guys have like seen or heard of really healthy young athletes just dropping dead? Has anybody been questioning this? So all of a sudden, if you look at young healthy athletes, when they just die out of nowhere, 9 times out of 10, the report comes back and said it was a heart-related issue. There's now something called, you guys have heard of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, right, in babies, which that's a whole other topic that I'll blow up if you ever want to go there. Not to you guys, but just in general. They now have something called SDA, sudden death of athletes. And I'll quote, it says, sudden death of athletes is a rare event, but now more common than we previously thought. Here's what it said. This is from the Journal of Circulation. Said that deaths of young athletes were predominantly 56% related to cardiovascular disease. Healthy young athletes have a 56% of them had some sort of heart failure. I would love to see somebody go back and show me how many of those young healthy kids that died out of nowhere had the COVID shot. Nobody will do that study because you know what's going to happen. But this is what happens that and plus if you can look at anything through all of it since 2020 on, there's probably never been one incident of a child having a complication from COVID. It's older, unhealthy adults. And the problem is that now you're going to take this vial and put it into the routine schedule of these kids. And that's the one shot at 6 months. That's not including the boosters that are going to follow from there. So you guys, like, this is where, like, we have to be awake to this stuff. We have to be aware of this stuff. And if you have questions and you want to talk more about this after or come find me, like, you know that I will be more than happy to dive in with you guys because we have to be aware of what's going on. And people that aren't here tonight, this is like when you learn something like this is you now have a responsibility to make sure other people know about this, right? Because I know that the moment I heard about it, everyone in my family, you bet they heard about it because we have to make sure that we're aware that we can start becoming conscious of what's happening and getting kind of put in the system. You guys go with that? Okay. Now something happier.
Yes. Well, that stuff needs to be said, but again, we're going to go back to strengthening the host. And mindset, believe it or not, has a huge impact on your health. So, one thing that I talk about is, has anybody ever said, oh, the weather's changing, this is normally when I get sick? Yeah, right? The weather's changing, it's getting cold, I get sick right now. Well, I was talking to the team earlier today and I was like, bull crap. It doesn't have to be that way. Our mind is so strong, and in fact, what you believe and what you say becomes your reality every single time. And that goes for more than just your immune system, more than just your health. What you believe and what you say becomes your reality every single time. So, if you keep telling yourself, oh, the weather's changing, it's the winter time, it's time for me to get sick, the cold's coming, the flu's coming, guess what? You're going to be sick. I used to do it all the time. Every time the winter would be coming, back in Pennsylvania when we had real winters, not out here, I would get sick. Guess what? I believed that I would get sick. So, when we're thinking about our mindset, we got to tell ourselves, no, I'm capable. I am, I can, and I will. I am, I can, and I will boost my immune system, right? So we got to do that through our mindset, and that's telling ourselves the right things, creating a positive attitude. Who said positive affirmations before? That everybody's hand should be up. If you say positive affirmations, your life will be changed. I'm telling you right now, if you wake up in the morning and you're depressed, you don't want to go to work, whatever it is, look yourself in the mirror. I am, I can, and I will. get through this day. I am, I can, and I will enjoy going to work. And you'll start to believe it, and then all of a sudden you believe, and it becomes your reality. Cool. So, living in a culture of fear. We've been doing this the past 2-3 years. I wrote down some things where a culture of our bodies aren't capable. That's why we have to inject ourselves. We wear our masks. We stay inside and hide. Don't gather around your friends and family. Think about that. There's a sickness out there. We can't gather around our friends and family. The people that give us health, the people that build us up, sometimes stress us out. We'll get into that in a second. Only the vaccine will return us to normal. Once everybody's vaccinated, then it's normal, right? God gave us the ability to heal. We just have to unleash it, and that's what we're talking about today, the 5 essentials. Stress during the holidays. Come on.
Not this room.
I know.
That's right.
I know when I go back home, I love my family, but I also get a little bit stressed. I'm sure you've experienced the same thing. We grew up similar. So just talking about ways to make sure we're preparing our bodies to make sure we know how to deal with this stress. So coping mechanisms, meditation, who's tried it? Meditate, try it. I'm telling you, guys, if you think you're too manly to meditate, it's not the truth. My wife does it every morning. I need to get better at it, I'll be honest, but it is amazing. It is amazing what it can do for you. Go for a walk. Like we talked about earlier, get outside in nature. God put these things on our earth for us to heal, right? Go for a walk, breathe in oxygen, get outside, make sure we're grounding. Who's heard of grounding? Take your shoes off and step in the dirt, like we talked about before. It is so important that you get outside, step in the dirt. Grounding is one of the main things that will do that. Deep diaphragmatic breathing. In our culture, we're breathing through our shoulders, or every time someone says take a deep breath, we all go. And guess what? We need to work on breathing through our diaphragm. Our shoulders should stay still, breathing through our diaphragm, and you'll realize that you can actually control your heart rate when you're getting stressed out by breathing through your diaphragm. Last one. Some people might not like this in here, but yoga. Yoga is amazing. Yoga can, I mean, it's a hard workout too, but yoga is awesome to calm your body, get you in that Zen mode. But those are just ways to deal with stress while you're going through it, all right? I had to add this in here. And you just tell me to calm down. Yes, I'm telling you to calm down, but doing it the right way, not saying calm down to your face. Cool. So last thing I'll talk about is focus on bringing peace to your body. So I talk about family time. Alone time is important too during the holidays. If you're feeling stressed, get by yourself and get outside, get away from family for a little bit, and then go pour back into your family. Teach them these things that we're talking about tonight, please. Friend time. I feel like in this world today, I don't know if you guys heard Dr. Mike's last mindset talk with Pastor Nate as well, but finding your six people to lean on and go talk to them, because when things are getting tough, you need to have those 6 people to lean on and someone you can count on, and you're not too manly or womanly to be able to go talk to somebody and express your feelings. It's just simple. And when you talk to somebody, all of a sudden they can help you through these things, so lean on people. Last few things, sleep, gratitude is one of the most important things. Sleep and gratitude, and I say my gratitude before I go to bed, and I say my gratitude when I wake up in the morning. When you have a grateful heart and a grateful mind, all of a sudden your mindset starts to shift. Things become a lot more positive in your life. If I've had a serious conversation with a patient in the office, you've probably heard me talk about gratitude, because it is a mindset shift, a paradigm shift, and can really change your health.
All right, we're going to dive into nutrition, because this is always the fun topic when we get to the holidays, because we like to do it. We need to grub, we need to eat. Parties are coming up. Guess what we do on Christmas Day? Woo! How many of you guys knew that? The average American consumes 6,000 calories on Christmas Day. I know that I did growing up. Think about, like, you just imagine your breakfast, lunch, and dinner on Christmas Day. I know that I grew up with like French toast and donuts and pancakes and eggs and bacon, and then after I was done, I was walking out and there'd be like little chocolate croissants. And then you go to lunch, right, and you go on lunch. And then my family, being Italian, our Christmas dinner was lasagnas and ziti, and I mean, it was nonstop all day long. And Then we just sat there and opened up presents. So it's like, we look at this, and this is just, like, it's funny, but at the same time, we are completely overdoing this. And the problem is that we have these holidays, but we turn them into hollow months. Yeah. We have 3 to 4 days during this next couple months that we celebrate, but we turn them into saying, oh no, this is not the right time for me to be focusing on myself because it's the holiday season. Anybody? It's okay, you don't have to raise your hand, I know you. It's okay, we're like, no, it's not the right time for me because I know there's parties and then I'm gonna have to do all these things, it's just not the right time. Like, just so you guys know, like I'm the guy where when the holidays started off, I told Dr. Matt, I was like, hey, do you want to do a challenge where we're going to be extra disciplined in the next couple months? That's the kind of guy that I am. I'm like, I know it's coming, so I'm like, let me get my habits dialed in before this comes in. Let me sharpen my sword before this comes in, so that way when we dive in, I'm like, it's no big deal. Like, this is what we do, right? So we start to dive in. 5 immune-destroying foods that we indulge in over the holiday season and in life, period. Number 1, sugar. This is crazy. So, I don't actually own sugar, so this is salt. Sorry. But I asked my wife, I was like, do we have sugar? She's like, no. So this is salt. But I read this study that said that this is 75 grams of sugar. Okay? 75 grams of sugar ingested will decrease your immune system for up to 5 hours. Did you know the average American consumes this before lunch? On a daily basis. We wake up, we drive over, we grab our double mocha froca latte, caramel extra whip, whatever, and then we grab a nice, maybe snag over, get a good egg McMuffin on the way out. Like, think about what the average American is going through, and you're consuming enough sugar to suppress your immune system for the rest of the day, every single day. And then they wonder, why am I always getting sick? Why do I always feel bad? And this is because we're literally like swallowing sugar all day long. And then we go into processed foods. I mean, pretty much these next couple months, every party is processed foods. Everything we do is processed things because it's quick, it's easy, we're stressed. Like you said, we don't have time. If we don't have time, we want something quick, which is always processed. So we gotta stay away from processed food, refined carbohydrates. Again, if you grew up in my house growing up, like everything was a carbohydrate. We didn't know. My dad called bread vegetables. That was what we ate. So like, there is just so many carbs all throughout these next couple seasons. You guys know what I'm talking about? Anybody else? Okay. So then we go fried foods loaded with the trans fats that are going to just completely destroy your gut, ruin your immune system. We got to stay away from the fried stuff because I had a friend who said for Thanksgiving, his dad gets a ham, he wraps it in bacon, and then he deep fries it. I almost threw up. And it just when I thought like we did it pretty bad, I'm like, there are other people out there that are doing it so much better. I mean worse. And then we get into artificial sweeteners. This is things like sucralose. This is things like aspartame. These are literally neurotoxins that can go past the blood-brain barrier and affect the brain. Literally leading to things like dementia and Alzheimer's. And this is one of the things we look at. When you look at all of your foods, you need to be looking at the ingredients for sucralose. There's so many times patients will bring me something, they say, hey, is this a healthy thing? It says 0 sugar. And then I'll look at the ingredients, and then sucralose is one of the main things. And understand that sucralose or artificial sweeteners is actually worse than sugar. It's worse than sugar. So if you're looking at I analyze a lot of people's protein powders and different foods, and there's a lot of stuff that they sneak sucralose in. So you have to go to the ingredients and look for either sucralose or aspartame when you're looking at foods. Okay, how do we do this over the next couple of months? So there's 2 nutritional plans that Max Living does. The Max Living plan, I'm going to do this really simple because if you want to get more information on this, we have a nutrition whole seminar online. But the Max Living plan says start eating less man-made food and start eating more God-made food. It's as simple as that. If the majority of food you eat, if it comes from something that grew in the ground or walked on this earth, it's as simple as that, right? We can make it easy. If it comes out of a box, try to eat less of it, try to eat none of it. If it comes out of a drive-thru, definitely don't eat it. So far, so good? So that's the basics there. Now we go into what the advanced version looks like. If you're somebody who's trying to reverse a condition, heart disease, diabetes, high cholesterol, you have high blood pressure, if you have a condition you're trying to reverse, the advanced version is that now you're cutting out all grains, you're cutting out all sugars, you're cutting out things like gluten, and you're minimizing dairy input. Things that are going to be highly inflammatory to your body needs to get completely gone. And I tell this to my family. I say, listen, can you eat this stuff in moderation? You can. The moment that you have a diagnosis, that means that your body has gotten sick enough to where you've lost the ability to eat those things. So if you want to get rid of it, you need to cut it cold turkey and you need to stop doing it. It's that straightforward, right? So the moment you have the diagnosis, your body is sick enough to where you have lost the opportunity to eat those foods. But what happens is that you go to the medical doctor and they give you a prescription, and then now you can kind of balance your cholesterol, so now you think it's okay to keep eating those things. And this is how we get sicker and sicker and sicker, okay? So breakfast with protein. So this is one of the biggest things. How many of you guys love that smoothie that you guys got there coming in? It's a pretty awesome smoothie, right? So the reason we did that is because literally that's probably my breakfast most days. You guys just had my breakfast most days. And the reason why I love that, it's fast, it's easy. It takes seconds on the go. I did this timer one time where my brother, I pray for him still, but he still wakes up and eats Hot Pockets and Pop-Tarts. And he put his Hot Pocket in the microwave, and it took him 2 minutes to make his Hot Pocket. I blended a full smoothie just like what you did in the same time frame. It's not faster, guys, to do the other things. We've been taught that it is, right? So that same smoothie, you can do the same thing. So that protein powder, that's why we put that in our bundle, is because most people are starting their day off with 75 grams of sugar, like sabotaging their immune system. This immune bundle we put together, the reason why we put the protein powder in there is because this is the best way to start your morning off, like with a healthy immune function. Now, I'm gonna get into that now. Look at that timing. Ha! Okay, so a lot of people were asking me, hey, Dr. Mike, what are you doing for you and your family over the next holiday season for your immune system? So along with the practical things that we're going to walk through that we've been talking about, this is something that every holiday season, like I told you, how is it that I adjust everyone with COVID and I adjust everybody who gets sick? And it's because I proactively build my immune system and I don't wait to get sick. We've been taught that says, hey, I got the sniffles, do you have anything for it? That's the germ theory model. That's the medical model way of thinking. My way of thinking says, doesn't it make more sense to just say, hey, knowing that this season, people just get sick more often, why don't I just take things that are gonna help build my immune system up proactively so I don't even worry about that? Does that make more sense, right? So this bundle we put together, and this is like the Dr. Mike Immunity Bundle. Like if you go to my house, you will see this in my pantry, I promise you. And for us, I always say that you can't do this one time and think that this one bundle is going to protect you for the rest of the holiday season. You're going to be good till February. I know. How cool would that be, right? So here's what I would recommend. Tonight, we make this whole thing. This is 25. What is it? 20% off this whole bundle tonight. So I would recommend, the reason why I don't usually go that high on the supplement discount, the reason why I did today is because I want you guys to have an opportunity to stock up. Like I would buy 2 or 3 of these and know that you're going to be good for the next couple months of the holiday season. So what we're going to, before we dive into there. So each one of these things, I wrote down some really cool concepts of why are these such immune boosting things, because this is pretty fantastic. So in this bundle, what you're going to get a vitamin D. Vitamin D, this is like, how many of you guys knew that vitamin D regulates the inflammatory cytokine response? So like when people are getting shingles or big responses to the COVID vaccine, those are big cytokine storms, they call them. Healthy vitamin D levels suppress that down so that you don't have that. What I like about ours is it actually has probiotics in it. So if you have a probiotic in your vitamin D, it absorbs better into your body. So that's why we have that. Next is a vitamin C. How many of you guys, well, we all know vitamin C is good during the holidays, yeah? Problem is that most of us, when I say, are you getting vitamin C? And they say, yeah, I drank orange juice every morning. I'm like, you might as well, this is what you did. You just did this, right? So here's the thing. Our vitamin C, number one, vitamin C is a powerful antioxidant, which is why it's really good. The thing that's good about ours is it gets rid of free radicals because it's buffered So buffered meaning that it's more gentle on your stomach, which again, you're gonna hear me say this a lot with our products, is that it's better and more easily absorbed. The benefit of a supplement, the quality of supplement, is based on of how easily can your body absorb and utilize that nutrient, right? So that's number one. It's got something called quercetin, which basically helps boost the white blood cells, which is your army fighters. And then it has bioflavonoids. This is cool. How many guys, when you make guacamole, if you let guacamole sit out, it turns what? Brown. It turns brown. That's oxidation. That's why it turns brown. But if you take a lime and you squirt a lime over it, that makes it not turn brown as fast, right? So a lime or citric foods are bioflavonoids. What it does is it helps fight free radicals and it helps reduce oxidation. That's in our vitamin C. This is why I like that. Then we have zinc. We all know zinc is good for viruses and helping with viruses, but here's actually why. Zinc with ours has something called taurine in it. And taurine amplifies the immune response, which stops the virus from replicating. So this whole, oh my God, she gave me this. Like that whole thing of us like passing it on, when you're taking zinc, it stops the replication process of a virus so it can't double and want to move forward. So that's why the Zinc Plus is really good. Something called Pronac. How many of you guys know what Pronac is? Number one. Okay, here's one crazy fact about Pronac. Pronac, this was going hotcakes during COVID because Pronac is a huge respiratory booster. Pronac, number one, is the number one precursor for glutathione in the body, which is your main body's immune fighting. Now, here's what's interesting. Do you guys know that the FDA, this is so big, the FDA is pulling Pronac off of the shelves. It's very difficult to find Pronac. Like, it's hard to find it because the FDA is trying to pull it off, because if they pull it away, then that means that you have to write a prescription for it, so now they can make and sell it. So it's very difficult to find Pronac over the counter. Because our company goes through a private, like, therapeutic supplement company, we have Pronac. I don't know how long we're going to be able to have it for before they pull it from us too. So you'll find multiple bottles of that in my house. Again, I would recommend, this is why we put it in here, I would recommend that you have a couple of those on hand. Next one we have is something called IM Support. So immune support. This is how many of you guys have heard of elderberry? So elderberry is in there. Elderberry shortens the duration of your sick time. And then you've heard of echinacea. Echinacea is in IM Support, shortens the duration of the sick time. And then there's a whole, I think there's 5 different types of mushrooms that are going to help boost the body's immune system. That's why IM Support's beautiful. And then the bone broth protein. I use bone broth. Here's why. When you get sick, a lot of times we say, hey, don't take dairy, don't eat dairy because that makes you more mucousy. So I think during the season, even if you don't have a dairy allergy, I would recommend staying away from things like whey protein that have dairy in it. I think people will be better off if they eliminate dairy in their body. So this is why I use a bone broth protein that doesn't have dairy. So I think in general, whether you have an allergy or don't have an allergy, most people will just respond better when they're taking something that doesn't have it in it. And here's the other cool thing. Like I said, most protein powders taste yummy because it's got loaded of sucralose. Ours is sweetened with stevia. Most protein powders have like 10 ingredients in them to 20 almost. Ours has like 5. It's the cleanest protein I've done in a long time. It's like one of the cleanest proteins out there, so that's why I put it in here. So this right here, this bundle, I would recommend, if I was you, I would get 2 or 3 of them and stack up. You get 20% off tonight if you do it. And this is something that I would just proactively do. Don't wait to get sick and then start doing something. Make this just a regimen that you do during the holidays so that we don't get sick. Does that make sense? Good, okay. And then this is something that also I prayed about. And something that I feel like needs to get talked about is we have to prepare, because here's the thing, the battle's not done. Going back, just understand this fundamental mindset that there was the swine flu, there was COVID, they tried throwing something like monkeypox, right? Like, just know, guys, that there's something else coming. And just know that it's not done. Something else is coming. And I don't say this from a fearful standpoint. I say this to empower you to know that it doesn't matter what comes next. It doesn't matter what kind of monkeypox or whatever kind of pox they put out there. It doesn't matter, because if the focus is not the germ, if the focus is the host, you bring whatever pox you want at me. It doesn't matter, because I'm confident in the host. You guys with me? But you have to understand that something else is coming. So when the news tries to throw something out there and say, oh, the world's falling apart because of this, like, we're not all running and being afraid, because we understand that something else was coming. Does that make sense? So you guys have to prepare your mind for battle, knowing that that's the case. I'm going to go through this quick, because I know that we're over time, and I apologize. This got fired up over shots and stuff. But we talked about why was it that Cameron's kids got so healthy and stopped getting sick. And it goes back to, how do you define health? What is your definition of health? Is your definition of health that you just feel good, and then if you feel good, then you are good? Or is it that every system in your body is connected and working in a harmonious way, that your brain is effectively speaking to every part of your body, that your body was designed to heal from above down, inside out, that God designed you that way, and that when you get adjusted, what that does is it reconnects the brain's ability to communicate out to your body, so that every part of your body is getting every signal the brain wants it to get? Like, is that how we're viewing health? Can I get like a little bit of hype there? Because this is how we should be doing it. This is the understanding of health. And here's, I went through that. There's nervous system. This is, I haven't got to put my little girl in a talk yet, so this is her time to shine. Here's the thing. When she was born, the moment she was born, I adjusted her spine. And we've adjusted her every single week. And this is Dr. Matt adjusting her, actually. But this is the cool part, is that up until this point, like, she doesn't get sick, because we keep her aligned, we keep her body healthy and well. And it starts from that place that she's never been to a doctor. She's never had a vaccine in her life. She's never had a medication in her life. She's never had a drug in her life. And here's my thought. Like Dr. Matt said, we have one of the best healthcare systems. Here's my vision for you guys. How awesome that we have the best healthcare system. How awesome would it be if your children never had to use it? Amen. Think about that. How amazing if we never had to use it. Like, cool, it's here, heaven forbid an emergency happens. But what if our kids grow up and get to their 30s and say, yeah, I've never been to a doctor. Never had a medication in my body ever. Never taken a drug ever. That is something that I envision for my kids. That's something I envision for my kids. And how do I do that? Well, where we go? This study right here. So this showed that a study was found that for patients who were under regular chiropractic care for 5 years or more, had a 200% greater immune response. Why do you, like, this is why you guys ask me about, when we talk about chiropractic care and we talk about it as a lifetime thing that we just do, for the rest of my life, I will tell you guys that this is a lifetime thing. That the longer that you're adjusted, the more your brain and your body can connect, and the greater chance you have to build resilience to anything that comes your way. Like, this is why you see people, the longer that they're adjusted, the greater their body's chances are for being healthy and fighting things off and rebounding. When heaven forbid something does happen, we rebound significantly faster the longer we're adjusted. And the patients that you have been with me for a couple of years, you guys have seen it. When something comes in that you tweak wrong, guess what? It bounces back faster, does it not? Right? When you get sicker, you bounce back faster because your body is able to communicate and heal the way that God intended it to. Like, this is the foundational principle that we have to start going to. So I look at, I have a friend who, his parents are chiropractors, and he was my buddy in chiropractic school. And at 33 years old, that young man had never had a vaccine, never taken a drug, never had a medication in his life, and he'd been adjusted for 33 years. And I look at that, I mean, he was like the most vibrant kid. I hated him because I was like so envious. And I was like, man, I wish that was me. So instead of me wishing on it, my little boy. So you guys have seen my son. How do we, everything we do, your kids are going to emulate. And this is it right here. My son loves to adjust me and loves to pretend to adjust me. And I have to be careful now because he likes to pretend to adjust his sister. The other day he was like, Daddy, I adjust Sissy. I'm like, oh no. Just pretend. But this is the thing. My question is as for us, right? For those of you guys who have kids or that you have an influence over somebody, are you a boss and that you have people that look up to you? What are we doing for our health? People that look up to you, whether it's children or people that work under you, there are people that are looking to you for as a role model for how do you respond. People looked up to me and said, how am I going to respond when COVID hit? My kids look up to me and said, well, how am I going to respond? And the things that I do is going to leave a legacy for those behind me, right? I act a certain way, I do a certain things, like I'm committed to a certain thing, a certain level of standard, because there are people who are going to watch and they're going to model. Our kids are doing that every single day, and you have to know that if your kid is watching you snag an Egg McMuffin and a coffee in the morning at McDonald's, what do you think they're going to try to role model? And this is what, like, we want our kids role modeling after good behaviors. We want people who are maybe watching you in your business or your church or your groups or whoever it is. You want them, it's like this is where all of us here, if you're here tonight, you're the role model. If you're here tonight, this starts with you. And if you're here tonight, that means that there's an obligation and a responsibility that you have leaving tonight to raise the bar and raise your standard one level higher and make sure that when we go home that we just do better. Can we just commit to that? Yeah. Can we just do better and inspire those around us to be better as well? Can I get an amen? Amen. Okay, so this is what's awesome. Starting this thing off, man, this little baby was born. 100 visits later, he's still a patient in my office. Oh, wow. We talk about this as a lifetime thing, and this is where this comes from. So I'm going to give you your action steps when you leave here. If you're a patient in my office, okay, here's your reflection. Number one, if you're an active patient, your homework is to stock up on your immunity bundles so that way we are proactively going into the next season, okay? In the back, if you walk back there, on the left there's a table. Morgan and Anne-Marie, you guys all have a flyer thing, right? Everybody has one of these? Okay, all you gotta do is mark what you want, how many you want, hand it to them, and they do the rest. It's super simple. I've made it as easy as possible. Go see them, pass them that. They're gonna help you get that. If you're also, again, your step 2 as a patient is to look at the 5 different topics we talked about tonight and figure out which one of those do I need to be better at. Which one of those do I need to go home and be disciplined a little bit better in this next couple of months, okay? If you're not a current patient in my office and you're a guest here tonight, here's your homework. It starts like what he said with his kids. It's get checked. I mean, it's getting adjusted, because here's the problem, is that if your spine is misaligned and your brain and your nervous system are not working, does it make sense that it doesn't matter how much broccoli you eat? It doesn't matter how much air punches that you do? It doesn't matter, because the body is still going to be less. You guys with me? Yes. So here's the thing, is if you're not a patient, what I would encourage you to do is go up to the right and see either Patty or Ellie, and I would go and make your first visit. By doing this today, what we always do for guests is that you get your first initial evaluation for 60% less. It literally, x-rays, consultation with the doctor is $52. It's a silly amount, honestly, for $52. So here's what I recommend. Guests, go to the right. Current patients, go to the left. And either way, you guys be blessed. I love you all. Thank you so much. And you have a rockin' rest of your night.